Fantastic.
Today we will dive into the lives of prominent people who once wielded immense power, but are now hidden in the shadows of history. These are not historical footnotes, but individuals who, for a variety of reasons, had their legacies deliberately taken away. Join us as we explore the lives of political people, emperors, and visionaries who had a significant impact on the world, yet were obscured by the passage of time. Let's have a look at the strange twists of fate, power battles, and complicated motivations underlying the elimination of these key figures. Number 10. Damnatio Memorii, the sad story of Geta. In the great hallways of history, there is a name that echoes the heaviest condemnation, Damnatio Memorii, or memory damning. The Romans, who valued legacy beyond life itself, used this as the ultimate insult, wiping lifetimes of accomplishments as if they never occurred. One dramatic example is the story of Geta Severan and his family. Geta, who attempted to share his father's throne with his hateful brother Caracalla, met a tragic fate. Caracalla murdered Geta after being stopped by their mother and subsequently executed Geta's wife, Plautilla. In the aftermath, every plaque, statue, or reference to Geta or Plautilla was destroyed in an effort to erase them from history. Ironically, despite his historical significance, Geta received a public funeral due to his renown. Caracalla, a ruthless dictatorial tyrant propelled into sole rulership of the Roman world, was the mastermind behind this memory erasure. Caracalla was never meant to be the sole ruler, having inherited it along with his slightly younger brother Geta after their father died in 211 AD. Their bad relationship prompted ideas of partitioning the empire. The breaking point occurred when Caracalla ordered Geta's assassination, leaving him mortally stabbed in his mother's arms. Caracalla's vengeance did not end with Geta's murder. He murdered over 20,000 of Geta's supporters and carried out a Damnatio Memorii, which involved erasing images and inscriptions throughout the empire, particularly on Rome's Arch of the Moneylenders, and melted down coinage bearing Geta's name or profile. Beyond his brother, Caracalla launched a memory war against Fulvia Plautilla, a 14-year-old aristocrat forced into marriage. Caracalla despised her for reasons that remain unknown. He killed her father for treason and then strangled Plautilla and their baby daughter while in exile. Despite being attacked, chiseled, gouged, and water-damaged, numerous Plautilla pictures have survived, presenting a story of imperial tragedy. Caracalla's own demise reflected his brutal actions. While organizing a military invasion into Parthia, he paused to urinate on the road. A furious soldier who had been denied a promotion approached Caracalla from behind and stabbed him to death. His killing brought an end to a short-lived dynasty, with Maximus, the previous prefect of his Praetorian Guard, assuming the imperial throne barely 3 days later. In the chronicles of Damnatio Memorii, Caracalla and his clan serve as a vivid reminder of the lengths that strong figures will go to obliterate their competitors and rewrite history, leaving only remnants of a turbulent past. Number 9. Nikolai Yov, the Soviet secret police. Nikolai Yov, once a prominent figure as the head of the Soviet secret police, found himself on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain during Stalin's reign of terror. During the Great Purge, Yezhov was tasked with murdering other spies, but he unwittingly signed his own death warrant. Yezhov was promoted to chief of the NKVD throughout the stressful World War II era, and his allegiance to Stalin drove him to carry out instructions to assassinate his own secret police compatriots. Little did he know that his loyalty would not protect him from Stalin's paranoia. Stalin, fearing his closest allies, executed Yezhov, sealing the Great Purge's secrets. However, Yezhov's destiny extended beyond death. In a bizarre twist, Stalin oversaw the elimination of Yezhov from history itself. Yezhov, no longer a high-ranking officer in the New World Order, faded into obscurity, disappearing from images of himself and his leader. Photoshop's power during World War II extended beyond combat to changing historical narratives. The Soviet leadership, led by Stalin, mastered the art of denial and deletion. Yezhov's disappearance was not a single instance, but rather part of a larger procedure in which unpopular information and personalities were removed from official records. Echoes of this erasure can still be heard in today's communist-led countries, as dissenting voices are forcibly silenced and digitally deleted. Yezhov's rise and collapse were indicative of the hazardous game played by Stalin's inner circle. Yezhov, who was tasked with purging the secret police, fell victim to Stalin's relentless mistrust. Western historians, skeptical of Soviet propaganda, point out that Yezhov's disappearance was, in fact, an execution, demonstrating Stalin's brutal rule. Stalin's demands to wipe executed NKVD members from history extended beyond deleting Yezhov's picture from public photographs. It included the fabrication of false narratives accusing Yezhov of disloyalty and collaboration with fascists. The propaganda machine labored diligently to rewrite history, ensuring that both current and future generations were unaware of the presence of those Stalin deemed dangers. Nikolai Yezhov is remembered as a victim of political intrigue and paranoia. His transformation from a formidable enforcer of Stalin's authority to a vanishing figure in poorly lit images serves as a striking reminder of how far authoritarian regimes would go to erase those who fall out of favor. Yezhov's erasure from history was more than just deleting a person. It was also a manipulation of truth, a disturbing process that still exists in the hidden halls of power. Number 8. Queen Hatshepsut and Thutmose III. Let's take this voyage down history's forgotten hallways, where we encounter the amazing story of Queen Hatshepsut, a woman who defied tradition to become Egypt's pharaoh. Thutmose III, her nephew and eventual successor, attempted to destroy her legacy, but fortunately, some remnants of her astonishing reign survived. So, what were the strange aspects of Hatshepsut's early life? The remains of Karnak Temple bear witness to Hatshepsut's influence, as she was instrumental in its creation. During her 20-year reign, Egypt experienced peace and prosperity, with construction projects blossoming and the coffers overflowing with Nubian gold. Hatshepsut images became increasingly macho and adorned the nation. Now let's see how Hatshepsut used gender-bending propaganda to become king. As we go into the complex details of Thutmose III's failed attempt to exterminate Hatshepsut to better understand her rule. Notably, she carefully assigned her daughter Nefrura to the powerful position of God's wife. This uncommon move sparked outrage, as evidenced by carvings in Hatshepsut's funeral temple. Despite discontent, there was no uprising during Hatshepsut's reign, which gave 2 decades of peace to the two lands. However, signals of discontent set the way for Thutmose's long-delayed drive to destroy her legacy. 25 years after Hatshepsut's death, Thutmose III began a methodical eradication of her existence. The purpose of this belated campaign was to secure the throne for his son. As he dealt with succession issues, Thutmose III methodically replaced Hatshepsut's portraits with those of his own lineage. Despite his efforts, Thutmose III was unable to totally eliminate Hatshepsut's influence. The vestiges of her reign, from Karnak's obelisks to famous images, have withstood the chisel and the test of time. Hatshepsut's reign, albeit a wonderful anomaly, met the unavoidable end of erasure. Thus, their attempt to erase her legacy finally failed. Hatshepsut's unique triumphs and accomplishments were preserved in the unbroken references that endured through the centuries. Hatshepsut's story is a tribute to resilience in the face of historical rewriting. Her legacy may have faced obstacles, yet her unwavering presence can still be felt in the remnants of her authority. As we explore these hidden storylines, we can't resist honoring Queen Hatshepsut, a pharaoh who defied expectations and made an unforgettable mark on Egyptian history. The echoes of her reign may have faded, but they remain reminding us of a woman who dared to be king. Number 7. Maximian and the Western Roman Empire. In the annals of Roman history, one figure stands out as a paradox, a great force that created the Western Roman Empire while being erased from history. In 293 AD, a power conflict erupted between Constantine and the insurgent Maximian. Both vied for the renowned title of Augustus, the Roman Empire's top leader. The balance of power shifted back and forth as Maximian, notorious for his anti-Christian stance, resisted Constantine's reformer empire. Maximian, a man with military prowess to match his ambition, faced the challenges of ruling a huge empire amid a period of barbarian invasions and political intrigues. His career intersected with Diocletian's formation of the Tetrarchy in 284 AD, a structure aimed to restore stability, facilitate succession, and battle the ongoing threat of barbarian invasions. Maximian was born into obscurity, and his early life is shrouded in mystery. His rise to power began as a soldier serving for emperors Aurelian, Probus, and Carus. When Diocletian succeeded to the throne in 284 AD, Maximian's fate changed when he was renamed Caesar then, in 286 AD, Augustus, and given the authority of the Western Roman Empire. His military skill earned him the moniker Maximianus Herculeus, a tribute to his Herculean strength. Notably, Maximian put down revolts against the Roman Empire, notably a Gaulish peasant movement known as the Bagaudai, and Germanic threats from the Burgundians and Alemanni. In 286 AD, Maximian faced a new obstacle in the form of Carausius, a naval commander tasked with eliminating Saxon and Frankish pirates in the English Channel. Carausius, on the other hand, declared himself Emperor of Britain and parts of northern Gaul, calling Maximian's authority into question. Although the uprising was eventually defeated, it put Maximian under strain. His efforts to preserve power included campaigns against several tribes, including the Burgundians and Alemanni on the Rhine, and the Mauritanian tribe known as the Quinquegentiani in North Africa. Diocletian and Maximian retired in 303 AD after celebrating their 20th anniversary. Constantius and Galerius inherited the Augusti titles, while Maximian's son Maxentius felt overlooked. In a remarkable turn of events, Maxentius led a coup in 306 AD, and Maximian emerged from retirement to defend his son's rule. However, Maximian's ambition drove him to plot a coup against his son-in-law, Constantine the Great, in 308 AD. Maximian's exile was the result of his failing endeavor. Maximian died in 310 AD, having been accused of a plot against Constantine. He was either executed or forced to commit suicide. Maximian's removal from history occurred as his pictures were removed and coins bearing his likeness were destroyed. His anti-Christian stance and violent persecution of Christians made him unpopular in the changing landscape of Constantine's empire. Maximian's tragedy serves as a striking reminder of the intricacies and hardships encountered by those seeking power during a watershed moment in Roman history. In the shadows of obscurity, Maximian's story stands as a testament to the ebb and flow of power, the repercussions of ambition, and the selective rewriting of history. As we investigate these buried chapters, we discover the story of a man who, despite his military victories, was eventually erased from Rome's historical tapestry. Number 6. Elizabeth O'Farrell and the Irish independence. In Irish history, one woman stands out as a symbol of both perseverance and erasure: Elizabeth O'Farrell. Born in Dublin in 1884 to a dockworker father and a shopkeeper mother, she defied conventional expectations by becoming a qualified midwife, fluent Irish speaker, suffragist, and trade unionist. O'Farrell's activity began in 1906, when she and her lifelong companion Julia Grennan joined Inginidi na hÉireann. They later joined Cumann na mBan, an auxiliary of the Irish Volunteers. During the 1913 lockout, she helped workers and worked with Constance Markievicz, garnering credibility as someone Connolly could trust. As Easter Week 1916 progressed, O'Farrell, working as a dispatch driver, reported from the west of Ireland to the GPO, where the leaders were located. She ran gauntlets, bringing essential supplies, surrounded by military shooters. In 1917, the Catholic Bulletin minimized the significance of Cumann na mBan women, but O'Farrell's detailed description revealed her numerous efforts, which ranged from nursing the wounded to cooking for the volunteers. O'Farrell performed a critical role on April 29, 1916. With a modest white flag and a red cross, she delivered Pierce's message to Brigadier General William Lowe. Despite assurances, she served time at Ship Street, Richmond Barracks, and Kilmainham Jail. After being released on May 1st, she continued to serve with Cumann na mBan, delivering dispatches during the War of Independence. Her resistance to the treaty and participation in anti-treaty activities characterized the post-Rising period. O'Farrell and Grennan continued to be active in Republican politics by raising donations for the families of anti-treatyite inmates. O'Farrell died in 1957, capping a life dedicated to Irish freedom. However, O'Farrell's legacy was nearly lost. The classic portrait of Pierce surrendering, with O'Farrell by his side, underwent inexplicable changes. While some versions merely show her feet, others completely obscure her, reducing her to an insignificant historical footnote. A play named Airbrushed rekindled debate over O'Farrell's removal from the photograph. Witnesses claimed she purposely concealed to defy oppressors, which she subsequently regretted. The Irish government apologized for marginalizing female freedom warriors and named a bridge after another protest member, Rosie Hackett. Elizabeth O'Farrell's tale reflects the experiences of many women during the 1916 Revolution. As a nurse and Republican activist, she bucked cultural standards, leaving a lasting impression. Her deliberate omission from historical pictures, whether intentional or not, emphasizes the often overlooked achievements of women during Ireland's struggle for independence. Pulling to a halt now, to bring you our subscribers' pick. One example of a prominent figure who faced attempts to erase their legacy from American history is W.E.B. Du Bois. Du Bois was a prominent African-American sociologist, historian, civil rights activist, and co-founder of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. He played a crucial role in advocating for civil rights and addressing racial inequality. However, during the McCarthy era and the Red Scare in the mid-20th century, Du Bois faced persecution for his activism and political beliefs. In 1951, he was indicted for his association with peace organizations and his alleged ties to the Communist Party. Although he was eventually acquitted, he faced ongoing harassment, and his passport was confiscated, limiting his ability to travel and engage in international activism. In 1961, at the age of 93, Du Bois moved to Ghana and renounced his U.S. citizenship. Despite his significant contributions to American civil rights and scholarship, his legacy was somewhat marginalized during this period of history. It was only later, after the civil rights movement gained momentum and societal perspectives evolved, that Du Bois's contributions were more widely recognized and celebrated. Today, he is acknowledged as a key figure in the struggle for civil rights and racial equality in the United States. Number 5. Altani Khan, the daughter of Genghis Khan. In the enormous annals of history dominated by names like Genghis Khan, there is a lost episode that has been obscured by time. Altani Khan, one of Genghis Khan's daughters, had considerable power and strength during a period when the Mongolian Empire saw both victory and suffering. While Genghis Khan's reputation lives on, Altani Khan's name has been muted, lost in the mysterious edits of history. In an era when Genghis's daughters were not only banished to the shadows, but purposefully wiped from history, Altani and her sisters emerged as powerful characters, revered and respected by their fearsome father. However, their prominence was challenged by an unexpected adversary, an unnamed censor who used the pen to remove their names from official records. The cause behind this remains unknown, leaving a hole in historical narratives where the stories of Altani and her sisters should have thrived. The missing chapter of Mongolian history, suitably dubbed The Secret History of the Mongols, was deliberately edited, a planned removal designed to disguise Mongol women's emerging influence. In unedited portions, Genghis Khan professed enormous respect for the women in his life and advocated for their honor. Tragically, the kingdom quickly dissolved after Genghis Khan's death, and Altani Khan and her sisters were thrown into a bloody war against a hostile revolt. The sisters' great exploits were erased from the official record as time passed, concealing their proper position in history. The veil over Altani Khan's story began to lift in 2010, when Jack Weatherford wrote The Secret History of the Mongol Queens, How the Daughters of Genghis Khan Rescued His Empire. This book shed light on Genghis Khan's daughters' impact and legacy, challenging the deliberate omissions that obscured their achievements. Genghis Khan, during his reign, boosted the prestige of women, notably his daughters. Altani, given the title of Baatur, which means hero, demonstrated her bravery by protecting Genghis Khan's youngest son, Tolui. These daughters played critical roles in diplomacy and warfare, marrying leaders of great tribes and nations and acting as diplomatic shields in every direction. Following Genghis Khan's death, a patriarchal change occurred, with his successors ignoring his legacy. His son, Ogedei, used ruthless techniques to eliminate female relations and consolidate dominance. Altani Khan and her sisters became victims of this power struggle, and their contributions were minimized and eliminated. The Mongol Empire was temporarily led by successive queens, who were not Genghis Khan's daughters. Kutulun, a Mongolian wrestling, horse racing, and archery champion, fought male dominance. However, their authority dwindled, and the powerful Mongol queens threatened extinction. Mandukai, a young Mongol princess born in 1448, gave the story a new impetus. Her strategic decisions and leadership resurrected the Mongol Empire, unifying the entire population of Mongols. Altani Khan's story, which was once purposely destroyed, now echoes through the corridors of history alongside Genghis Khan. Censors' deliberate edits may have hidden their historical significance, but Altani Khan and her sisters have recovered their narrative, leaving an everlasting stamp on Mongolian history. Number 4. Jack Parsons, the controversial scientist. Jack Parsons, a man of many talents and controversies, made a lasting effect on the history of science. but his life is buried in mystery. Born at 1914, Parsons was more than just a scientist. He was also an innovator, a socialite, and a crucial figure in some of America's most significant programs. In the 1940s, Parsons was a key founding member of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. His accomplishments expanded beyond the laboratory, affecting the military throughout World War II and laying the groundwork for the fledgling NASA. Parsons helped develop jet-assisted takeoff engines and stable solid rocket fuel, and laid the framework for space exploration. However, Parsons' life took a turn for the unexpected. His role in the early development of Scientology, alongside L. Ron Hubbard, raised eyebrows and drew criticism from the educated elite and the federal authorities. Despite his major contributions to science, Parsons was exiled from society and systematically removed from historical records. Parsons' fascination with the occult and unusual personal life sparked rumors and unfavorable attention. His participation in a hedonistic Pasadena lodge, where drugs and free love flowed freely, drew attention from law enforcement and the FBI. Accusations of cult activity and black magic circulated, but investigations eventually revealed no threat to national security. During this time, Parsons became fascinated by witchcraft and strange ceremonies. His attempt to call an elemental through rituals involving wrong physical activities and magical tablets gave a mystic layer to his multifaceted personality. Despite his scientific breakthroughs, Parsons' financial situation deteriorated following a failed business deal with Hubbard and his ex-girlfriend Sarah. Parsons was expelled from Aerojet for his unconventional methods, and he found himself at odds with the evolving political landscape of the Cold War. He struggled to find work after losing his security credentials and being labeled a suspected communist sympathizer. He turned to the occult. Parsons' latter years were marred by financial difficulties, strange employment, and a growing devotion to the occult. His relationship with Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard's financial situation was exacerbated by a disastrous investment scheme. Parsons died in 1952 while manufacturing explosives for a movie, amid suspicions of a state-sponsored plot. Despite his pioneering work in rocketry, Parsons' accomplishments were overshadowed by his eccentric lifestyle and esoteric inclinations. His legacy lived on in footnotes and esoteric whispers, while being erased from mainstream historical narratives. It wasn't until the biography Sex and Rockets that the colorful figure of Jack Parsons was resurrected, exposing a man who broke society's standards and had an unforgettable effect on both science and the supernatural. Number 3. Grigory Nelyubov. In the interesting world of space travel, there lies a forgotten name, Grigory Nelyubov, a cosmonaut whose narrative has been erased from history. Nelyubov, who was handpicked for the first cosmonaut detachment in 1960, was initially heralded as a promising spaceflight candidate. He was a member of the Sochi 6, a top-tier space team, and was described as a fantastic person, excellent pilot, and sportsman. However, the story takes a turn, and different versions emerge regarding Nelyubov's excursion into space. Some say he was the third or fourth person to leave Earth's atmosphere, while others maintain he never went into space at all. The mystery grows when stories surface that Nelyubov faced expulsion from the Soviet space program for alcohol-related misconduct. The watershed point in Nelyubov's life occurred on the 18th of February, 1966, shortly before daybreak. In a tragic turn of events, the cosmonaut became inebriated and strolled onto railroad lines, being struck by a train. The authorities labeled his death a suicide, ushering in a cover-up that would fuel rumors of missing cosmonauts. Initially chosen as one of the first cosmonauts for the Russian space program, Nelyubov's hopes of becoming the first man in space were dashed when Yuri Gagarin received the historic call on April 12, 1961. Despite being chosen as a backup for the second space trip, Nelyubov continued training, eagerly awaiting his moment in orbit. The tipping point came on March 27, 1963, when Nelyubov and two other cosmonauts left the base for a night of partying. The alcohol-fueled excursion turned rowdy at a train station, resulting in a clash with a security guard. In a defiant act, Nelyubov engaged in a shoving struggle with the officers, leading to his detention for being intoxicated and unruly. The repercussions were terrible. Nelyubov and his colleagues were removed from the prestigious space program. To save face and prevent disgrace, Russian officials went to considerable efforts to remove all references to the cosmonauts from the public record. In a curious and controversial episode, Nelyubov was airbrushed out of a publicity photo of the first squad of cosmonauts. The The story of Grigory Nelyubov is shrouded in secrecy, clouded by competing tales and lost papers. His contribution to the early days of space exploration, which had been bright and full of potential, came to a tragic end. Nelyubov's story, lost in the shadows of history, inspires speculation about what might have been, adding to the universe's mystery. Number 2. Hedy Lamar. Hedy Lamar, recognized for her captivating beauty on television, possessed a hidden skill that extended beyond Hollywood elegance. Born Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler in Vienna at 1914, she rose to prominence in Europe with performances in films such as Ecstasy. However, her life changed when she left an unfortunate marriage to fascist Fritz Mandl in 1938. Which led her to Hollywood. Hedy made an indelible impression on film history throughout the next 2 decades, appearing in films such as Algiers, Boomtown, White Cargo, and Samson and Delilah. Behind the scenes, she had an unexpected passion. She was an inventor. Aside from the image of a Hollywood star, Hedy had a strong interest in engineering and a smart mind. In her spare time, while filming 2 or 3 films every year, Hedy experimented with inventions. With her father's early motivation to learn how the world worked, she established an inventor's corner in her Hollywood home. The public had no idea that beneath the gorgeous exterior sat a woman obsessed with mechanics and eager to solve the world's issues. During World War II, Hedy's devotion to her adopted country inspired her to work with composer George Antheil on a secret communication system. This innovative system, based on frequency hopping or spread spectrum technology, aimed to remotely control torpedoes, evading enemy interception. Despite receiving a U.S. patent in 1942, the U.S. Navy dismissed their design as overly complicated. Hedy was unaware of the patent after the war and was only unearthed during the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1960s. Hedy's spread spectrum technology, which was previously disregarded, has now become the cornerstone for Wi-Fi and GPS, shaping our hyper-connected world. Surprisingly, Hedy kept her scientific pursuits hidden, with no reference to them in her autobiography or current sources. According to her obituary, she saw her innovation as a contribution to the war effort and never sought monetary compensation. Only in her final decade of life did the world recognize the brilliance underlying Hedy Lamar's beauty. Director Alexandra Dean described Hedy as 100 years ahead of her time. This incredible invention, now receiving the recognition she deserves, serves as an inspiration for future generations, demonstrating that intelligence can be as compelling as any Hollywood performance. Number 1. Edith Wilson. In this fascinating story about forgotten figures, Edith Wilson emerges as a significant force lurking behind the scenes of President Woodrow Wilson's administration. Edith married Woodrow at 1915 when he was in the White House, and her life took an unexpected turn when the president had a stroke in 19, disappearing from public view. Edith, as gatekeeper and spokesperson for the ill president, exerted more power than many people realized. Rebecca Boggs Roberts' book, Untold Power, reveals Edith Wilson's multifaceted legacy. Roberts, who has expertise in influential women in Washington, provides light on Edith's unique role from the Wilson House in D.C., a historic location where the Wilsons retired. Edith, a widow with her own business and the first woman in Washington to obtain a driver's license, brought independence and control to her marriage with Woodrow. Initially averse to being a first lady, she joined the ranks after Woodrow included her in policy debates rather than customary declarations of love. However, Edith's most significant impact occurred during Woodrow's stroke in 1919. With the president disabled, she took on a major role, controlling visits and making decisions on his behalf. According to Roberts, Edith lied to the public and officials about the seriousness of Woodrow's condition. She became a conduit for individuals seeking access to the president, effectively influencing cabinet decisions and even vetoing the Volstead Act, which Congress overrode, ushering in prohibition in 1920. Edith's skill in managing matters following Woodrow's stroke protected him from the painful realities of his situation. While she continued to support Woodrow Wilson's memory, Edith resided in the Wilson House until 1961, hosting successors such as Jackie Kennedy. Despite her independent and intelligent temperament, she meticulously built a public image of loyalty to her partner, a unique blend of femininity and strength to justify her behind-the-scenes acts. In the shadows of history, Edith Wilson's story exemplifies the sometimes overlooked power dynamics within the presidency. Her legacy, shrouded in traditional gender stereotypes, parallels the trials and victories of women negotiating complex political environments. Unveiling Edith Wilson's incredible strength reveals a hidden episode in history in which a woman's influence crossed traditional boundaries. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.